how long ago did you hear someone say, sorry? That kind of rolling of the eyes, the shrugging of the shoulders, the raising of the tone, sorry, and you know, they're not sorry at all. They're not even close to sorry. That's how bad things have got during the time of Joel, that the people of Israel are starting to do that kind of sorry with God. Sorry for our sins, God. And he says, hang on, that's actually not going to pass. What's happened is their sorry has become just a show. Let me show it to you. Chapter 2, beginning in verse 12. Yet even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting, with weeping, with mourning. And he says, rend your hearts and not your garments. Do you see what he's saying here? You've made it this outward show of making this big hubbubaloo. Is that how you say the word? Thank you. You got it sorted. You guys should just come up here and help me out. Okay. You made this big deal of ripping off your clothes, of showing your outward sorrow, but your hearts are not broken at all. And so Joel says, return to the Lord, your God. And he quotes from the book of Exodus. For he is gracious and merciful. That's chapter 34, Exodus. Gracious, merciful, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love, and he relents over disaster. Fascinating, this version of it's the same that's quoted in the book of Jonah that we looked at just a couple of weeks ago. And look, it's the same kind of language that the king of Nineveh uses about this character. He says, who knows whether he will not turn and relent and leave a blessing behind him, a grain offering and a drink offering for the Lord your God. So let's just recall in our brains what we know about how they would say sorry in their day. They would make a big show of it. So they would rip off their, I'm not going to do it because it would be inappropriate, but they would rip their garment. They would get on their knees with ripped garment and they'd cover themselves in something dirty like ashes. So it would be very physically clear. Like this is a very sort of humble position. Their clothes are ripped apart. I mean, if you drove past someone and their clothes were ripped and they're on their knees and they're dirty, you would go, oh, that person's having a rough day. And so they've gotten so used to doing a sorry in this way that it's become just a show. That's a loud bit of rain, isn't it? We'll try our best to just keep together, hey? So what do we do when sorry's just become a show? What we need is a real sorry. God says, rend your hearts, not just your garments. Make sure it actually breaks your heart, not just your garment. You know, when we break the law of God, we also break the heart of the lawgiver. We break the Father's heart because he set these laws for us not to restrict us from what is joyful, but to keep us in the most joyful place, inside his will. And so when we choose to break that law, we break his heart. As I'm sure parents and grandparents, you know, when you set a good rule and a law for a kid and you watch them break it and you go, oh, the reason I didn't want you to do that was because I know there's pain out there. And I was trying to hold you back from that. So what does a real sorry look like? This is where we spent all of our time in the first service. I'm just going to give you a quick summary in this second service. If you want to, you can go back and have a listen to the audio recording of the whole big idea of this. But let me just give you the quick summary. 4 steps to a true sorry, a real sorry. The first step is what I did was wrong. What I said, what I thought, what I did, what I didn't do was wrong. A sorry that doesn't begin with me is not a real sorry at all. And you know it straight away, don't you? Oh, but they started it. Every footballer ever, right? Oh, they started it. Oh, but they did this first. But, and they start going into excuses. If it doesn't begin with an acknowledgement of our guilt, it's not a real sorry. It's got to begin with what I did was wrong. And not just, oh, what I did was less than ideal. You know? It was wrong. It was wrong. It's got to begin there. It's not a real sorry if we can't admit, if we can't say, you know what, I broke God's rules, or I broke the government's rules, or I broke my own rules. James, the epistle in the New Testament says, if it seems sinful to you, then it is a sin for you. It gets to the point of going, hang on, if you're breaking your own set of rules, then it's not helpful. It's actually pulling you apart. So the first step is, what I did was wrong. Can you just turn to the person next to you and let's go through these steps together and just say it to the person next to you. What I did was wrong. First step of a real sorry? What I did was wrong. Okay, here's the second step of a real sorry. I feel bad. It's not a real sorry if you said, what I did was wrong and I'm totally happy with it. Right? It's not a sorry. It's just not. If you can't admit that what you did was wrong and that it's actually impacted you, like when you see that you have done something that's broken someone's heart or upset them or caused them hurt or pain, if that doesn't cause anything inside you, well, you might be a little bit dead inside or a bit narcissistic. It's actually got to get to the point of I feel, and I use the word bad to make it simple, but it could be upset, brokenhearted, it could be whatever. I actually am emotionally impacted by this. It's not a real sorry if you don't feel bad about it. If you still think you're right and you don't feel bad, it's not a sorry at all. It's just a show. It's just a show because when we say, oh, I did the wrong thing, I feel really bad about it, but I feel bad because you caught me. Now, it's not a real sorry, is it? I feel bad because I'm now going to have to live with the consequences of my own dumb actions, rather than I feel bad because I caused pain for you. I made life difficult for you. A real sorry begins with what I did was wrong, and then I feel bad. So can you go through that with me? First step, what I did was wrong. And then second step, I feel bad. Okay, here you go. Here's the third step. You actually have to ask for forgiveness. The next step is very important. You have to say sorry by asking to be forgiven. Sometimes people aren't ready to say, I forgive you yet. Sometimes it's going to take a long time for them to trust you. But this is the next step. To actually say, you know what, I acknowledge what I did was wrong. I can see how it hurt you. I feel bad for what I've done. I'm asking you, would you forgive me? And if you don't say, would you forgive me, what's actually happening is you're still trying to control the situation. If you just say, what I did was wrong, I feel bad, and you leave it there, you're going, yep, I did the wrong things, but I'm still okay because I'm not having to humble myself to a point of saying, would you forgive me? You're still trying to hold control. So the next stage of forgiveness is really important because you're humbling yourself. So first stage, say it with me, what I did was wrong. Second stage, I feel bad. Third stage, can you forgive me? Fourth stage, you have to say, let's make it right. What can I do to make it right? What can I do to make it better? See, it's not a real sorry. You imagine back to the days when you were squabbling with your siblings in the back of the car. You're in the Holden Commodore or the Ford Falcon and you're in the back of the car and there's a bit of squabbling in the back. Don't hit your sibling, Say you're sorry, and then you hit them again. That's not a real sorry. If you go ahead and do it again, it's not a sorry. The final stage is actually the rebuild. Trying to make it right. Technical term, it's restorative justice. It's actually trying to restore things and make them whole and well. If sorry is just a show, you'll be able to see it because you keep doing the same thing over and over again. I was talking to a copper locally here recently who said 90% of the phone calls they get in at the cop shop at Bunbury, domestic violence or welfare checks. The amount of repeat offenders in domestic violence, huge. Sorry for hitting the missus, yeah, but you're coming back again in a couple of weeks' time. It's not a real sorry, is it? I understand that's a really intense example, but it's reality for so many people, even in our own city. So a real sorry gets to the point of going, what can I do? I understand I've broken trust. I understand I've caused hurt. How can we make things right? It's not a real sorry if things remain broken and you don't try to fix them. And look, sometimes it can't be fixed. Sometimes it's going to take a long time to try and make things right. And even sometimes you can never make it right. But you need to offer, you need to try, you need to make those steps to restore and to build trust in that relationship. The significant thing is there, what is forgiveness? Have a look again at Joel chapter 2, verses 13. He says, "Rend your hearts and not your garments. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious, he is merciful, he is slow to anger, he's abounding in steadfast love, he relents over disaster." See, the third step of a sorry is, can you forgive me? But the reality is, forgiveness is something that only God can do. It's something that only God gives and that we pass on. We've received the forgiveness of God by the work of Christ. We have been forgiven, therefore we can forgive. Because all of the rocks have been dropped by Jesus. No one can pick up a stone to hurl at anybody else. We're able to give forgiveness. This is the good news of Jesus Christ, that God has made all our sins and our mistakes right by Jesus living the perfect life we should have lived, by taking the consequences that we deserved at the cross. Because of Jesus, we can forgive, because in Jesus we are forgiven. That isn't possible by ourselves. We need the Spirit of God.